Welcome to TalkNorth.com. Thanks to our longtime producer, Brandon Morton. Please download before you listen. If you'd like to advertise with us, you can reach us at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. And please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. 2 promo codes to be aware of. BiteSquad.com. Use the promo code TalkNorth to get your first delivery free. And go to SodaStick.com, the great local apparel company. Use the promo code YouBetcha to get free shipping on any sized order.
Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on the show, Steve. Should be a good one. Thanks for having me, Steven.
Double S anytime, man.
Christopher Mando Russo here. You are listening to Steven Strom on TalkNorth.com. Always passionate, always fiery. You're listening to the Strom Sports Show. Take it away, Steven.
All right, here we go now on a beautiful Sunday morning. This is the Strom Sports Show, episode 70. Steven Strom here of TalkNorth.com. Great to have you with us today. Huge Sunday for us Viking fans. And as always, big shout out to my producer, Brandon Morton, Matt Augusta. And if you want to advertise with us, contact Jim Suhan on our website at TalkNorth.com. Okay, this is what Viking fans and Kirk Cousins haters have been waiting for. This is the day that the Minnesota Vikings go into Kansas City. They're going to play an over 500 team, so there's no complaints. Even if they win, they'll be 5-4, so it's over 500. So you can throw that stat out the window once they win or lose or not today. Can the Vikings go into Kansas City and Arrowhead, where it's kind of been weird with the Chiefs this year? They've lost 3 games at home this year. Those are all the 3 games they've lost are at home. Can they beat the Chiefs? What will they need to do? And how will they do it? We'll hear from the opposition, Blair Kerkhoff. He is the Chiefs reporter for the Kansas City Star. I also want to get into some segments today. The top 3 most underpaid Minnesota athletes of 2019. A little positive today on a Sunday morning instead of going the overpaid route with Wiggins and Cousins as of a couple weeks ago. Maybe that changed the narrative with Cousins. So we'll get into that. How the month of November will define the Gopher season and the Viking season. Gopher football we're talking about. But let's begin here with a little scrap, little fight, little wrestling match, a little pillow fight. Whether you want to call it a fight or not, Karl Towns got into it with Joel Embiid on Wednesday night. I just wanted to, this kind of bothered me, okay? Because the suspensions came out yesterday, and Embiid and Towns got 2 games, well-deserved. But Ben Simmons, okay, and if you didn't see it on Wednesday night, basically the Wolves are getting smacked by 20 points. Karl Towns and Embiid have some beef in the past. They get tangled up under the basket. I know there was a physical matchup the entire game, but basically Towns got fed up. He turned around and he went after Embiid, and then it ended up being like this wrestling match, whatever you want to call it. You can look at it on YouTube. But Embiid and Towns get their suspension, which they deserved. Now, Ben Simmons, who, if you watch the video, didn't get suspended, and Ben Simmons goes into this wrestling match and tries to quote-unquote break it up. I forgot you break things up by putting the opposition, which is Karl Towns, in a freaking headlock, which is what happened. Ben Simmons comes over, runs over like he's like Mr. Nice Guy and Mr. I don't want any fights, goes for Towns' head and absolutely has him in a headlock where Towns looks like he's choking. So Ben Simmons saying is, I'm breaking up the fight. Okay, if you're breaking up the fight, get between the 2 guys. Don't grab Towns by the neck and drag him down, which is what happened. So Ben Simmons, who plays Mr. Rogers here, Mr. Nice Guy, after the press, I was, in his Australian, I was just trying to, break up the fight. That's not Australian. I don't know why I did it that way. But Ben Simmons should have gotten suspended here. That's the first issue that I have with this. I mean, the guy put him in a headlock and dragged him to the ground, okay? It wasn't this like, we talk about guys that that are peacemakers. I mean, Ben Simmons was not a peacemaker in this instance at all. So this really bothered me. Now, the second thing that bothered me, and I don't mind the fight, by the way. I don't. I really don't. Listen, you get frustrated and you're getting killed by 20. It's like a hockey game. If you're getting killed for nothing, I don't mind if you send out your bruiser to go at least show some grit, show some fight, show some life. You're not going to get kicked around like this. And I kind of liked what happened on Wednesday night. I liked that Embiid and Towns. Listen, Towns was sick of it. He went after him. What I don't like is after the fight. And that is the social media aspect. And Joel Embiid has been doing this for years. He trolls people on Instagram. He trolls people on Twitter. He's asking out Rihanna. He's just a wild, wild bull on Twitter. I mean, he really is. On social media in general, you don't know what he's going to say. And I think 76ers, front office has to cringe or just kind of hope that Joel Embiid doesn't say anything stupid, because he's just one of those players that you don't know if he has a filter. You don't know if what you told him last week that you said, hey, Joel, don't say anything. You don't know if that's going to be on social media. And that's a scary, scary player to deal with. So let me just give you what happened after the game. So Joel Embiid goes on Instagram and posts a picture. And here's the caption: "Great team win. I was raised around lions, and a cat pulled on me tonight." If you don't understand the gist of this, Karl Anthony Towns, KAT, they call him Cat. I hope you understand that. I was raised around lions and a cat pulled on me tonight. Missed being part of the third stringers at Jimmy Butler. I got his mom giving middle fingers. That's some serious real estate. So let's break this down really quickly. So missed being part of the third stringers at Jimmy Butler. We understand Jimmy Butler came into the first day of practice, took a bunch of third stringers and beat the starters. So that's number one. Why are you dragging in you're dragging in Jimmy Butler? And I give Jimmy some credit here. He actually commented, said, "Why are you dragging me into this kind of thing?" with laughing emojis. So I don't understand that. That has nothing to do with Jimmy Butler. And then can we not, keep the moms out of this? This is where it's keep it on the basketball court. If you're going to fight, respect, whatever. But we don't have to go towards, your mom did this. Keep the mothers out of this, okay? The mom does not deserve to be dragged into this or talked about on social media. I thought that was kind of all right, Joel, calm down. It's just a little scrap on the court. There's no need to bring in people's family members in this. So that's number one. And then, of course, Towns' response, "I ain't no B," which Embiid said in his press conference. The first thing that he said was, "I'm not no B." I don't know if I can say it here, but I'll say it here. "I ain't no bitch," right? And then Towns came back and said, "I ain't no bitch," raised around lions, and kind of just was mocking him. And then now we get this where it's just it's too far here. Joel Embiid goes, "Imagine talking after a 20-point loss," he said. "You hate to see it. Go ahead, use that pic of me crying about losing in the second round of the playoffs," because Towns' response to Embiid was posting Embiid after he lost the second round playoff game against, I think it was Toronto, and Philly, and Embiid was crying, and they caught that on camera. So here's response to Embiid, Towns posting that. So Embiid goes, "Go ahead, use that pic of me carrying in the second round of the playoffs. Oh, wait, you've never been there. You don't know what it's like. No Cat Boy finally won 3 games, and he's been a blank your whole life. That's why you were treated like a blank by you-know-who. I ain't going to put your business out there, but I got the facts about you. Don't get it twisted. I own you." So, first thing I think is, what does he know that we don't know kind of thing? I think that's the first thing. But the bottom line here is, if you're going to fight, keep it on the court. I don't mind it. I really don't mind showing up, and if you're getting killed, you're showing some heart, and you're saying, you know what, I'm not going to take any smack anymore. And I'm okay with that. But what happens after is just so, keep it on the court once again. You don't bring up these certain topics here. You don't drag in other players. Jimmy Butler does not need to be dragged into this. You don't have to talk about Karl Towns' mother. You don't have to expose him and say, I know things that you know that I don't know about kind of thing. And then you kind of add speculation around the league, and then the league's probably thinking, what's going on? I just think that Embiid goes too far, but it doesn't surprise me because he's been like that his entire career. Now, let's just look at the head-to-head matchups, and let's be honest here. Joel Embiid pretty much has been hammering Karl Towns these last couple of years. So they played in 6 games against each other. Sixers have won 5. Wolves have won 1. Let me just really quickly read you the numbers. So last game, Joel Embiid had 19 points. Towns had 13. The game before that was January 15th, 2019. Embiid had 31 points and 13 rebounds. Towns had 13 points and 3 rebounds. Year before that, Towns had 15 points, 11 rebounds. Embiid had 19 and 6. Year before that, 2017, Embiid 28 and 12. Karl Towns 19 and 16. So the last couple of years here, Embiid has really taken Towns to school. Now the first 2 times they've met, Embiid had 10 and 10, Towns had 25 and 10, and then that same year they played, Embiid had 25 and 8, Towns had 23 and 16. So there's really only been one game where Towns has outscored Embiid. So I think it's definitely something that was frustrating, Carl. And once again, do not mind the fighting. I don't mind the in-game fighting, if you even want to call it that. I'm not even a fight. I mean, let's be honest here. That's not like 80s, 90s stuff. This is petty, I'm going to hit you, or not even hit you. I'm going to grab you and not throw a punch or anything like that. I'm just going to try to grip you and try to put you in a headlock, Ben Simmons, all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't even a fight, but I don't mind it. All right, let's move on here. Let's go to the Kansas City Chiefs and the Minnesota Vikings. Blair Kerkhoff, he'll join me in just a second here. What will the Vikings need to do, and how will they do it? We'll hear from Blair in just a sec here. And we're joined here by Blair Kerkhoff, the reporter for the Kansas City Star. He covers the Kansas City Chiefs. I was on his podcast a few days ago. He returns a favor today. Blair, long time no talk. How's everything, my man?
Yeah, everything is good. It was great talking to you the other day. I really appreciate you hopping on our Sports Beat KC podcast, and really happy to be on with you talking Chiefs and Vikings.
Anytime, and I'm very excited for the conversation ahead here, as it's a huge game, obviously. You've got an AFC-NFC matchup in this scenario. Let's just start with the Kansas City Chiefs, who start off 4-0. They look like they don't miss a beat from last year. Then Patrick Mahomes gets banged up. And it's kind of curious. It's weird to see that all 3 losses this year for KC has been at home, and this was traditionally a really tough place to play, as it still is, but they really protected home field very well. What has changed here besides Patrick Mahomes going down?
Well, what's changed for the Chiefs is the injury to Mahomes and the injuries to so many other players, frontline guys. I've never seen this is Andy Reid's 7th season in Kansas City, and he's never had to deal with the injury bug the way he has this year. So Mahomes was hurt originally. He suffered an ankle sprain in the opener and kind of toughed it out the next few games. Played well. The Chiefs won them all. He was having his usual 300-yard plus efforts, 3-4 touchdowns a game. And you're right, as you said, he picked up where he left off last year. But as the games were ticking off, the injuries were piling up for KC. I mean, guys, they lost offensive linemen, most notably Eric Fisher, the overall top draft pick in 2013, who's turned into a really nice left tackle for them. Chris Jones, really came into his own, 15.5 sacks last year, moved from outside linebacker to defensive tackle and was playing really well for the Chiefs. And then in just recent weeks, Frank Clark, who's the most expensive player that the Chiefs have, the free agent signee from the Seattle Seahawks, and go down the list. They also played the first 4 games without Tyreek Hill, managed to win those games, but still had to deal with Tyreek Hill's absence. Sammy Watkins, the other wide receiver, has missed a handful of games. So it's not just 1, 2, or 3 guys. It's been like 7, 8 guys, starters, for the Chiefs who have missed time, more than one game because of injury, and that really it was really noticeable last week against the Packers when Matt Moore had to go in Mahomes' stead. It's the first game that Mahomes has missed as a starter since becoming a starter at the beginning of the 2018 season. Of course, the Packers took advantage, won the game, and now the Chiefs are faced with the prospect of playing a second straight game without Patrick Mahomes.
And we're here with Blair Kerkhoff of the Kansas City Star. And what I'll say about the losses, at least, Blair, is that the combined record is 17-6 against the loss. So it's not like you're losing to bad teams, So it's
that's correct. Yeah, that is right. Look, and this is a team that is currently 5-3 at the midway point, and they played a tough schedule the first half of the season. If the playoffs started today, the Chiefs would have played, I think this is right, 4 playoff teams among their first 8, and there were only 2 of those in the back half of the schedule, starting Sunday with the Vikings, and then they play at New England later. So I think the Chiefs are looking at a scenario where they start to get healthier, the schedule starts to get a little lighter, and they can get a full head of steam into the postseason. But you're right. I mean, even with all the problems that they've had, they've still managed to post a pretty good record.
Let's talk about Patrick Mahomes really quickly here. What is the update? I mean, I'm just kind of looking at your schedule. Is this